Right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 127 of the On Air Advocate. Where at the On Air Advocate, we look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate, and I am super excited to see you this Monday evening. Today, or whether you are going to catch this later on the replay. Now, as always, if you think any of the content that we are talking about today could be relevant for anyone in your circle, please hit the share button and share the love with others. And please bear with me today as I am getting over a bad cold and I try to get all my words out the right way. Well, I am so excited as we continue our support and education series to introduce you guys to a friend and an absolutely phenomenal woman, Jessica. She is a content writer, a disability activist, a social media manager, a head administrator, a podcast host, a poet, and the producer, founder of The Abler. And I am so excited to have you here today, Jessica, to share with everyone your story.
Oh, thank you for having me, Tammy. It's a pleasure.
Yes, I mean, and you have just been in so many publications. You have produced so much stuff. So by the end of this segment, if you're not following Jessica, you should be following Jessica.
I'm pretty much everywhere. You can't really ignore me.
And so when we talk about support and educating others, obviously I was drawn to your platform, The Abler, because it serves a lot to that. And we'll kind of get into that at the end, closer to the middle to end to the broadcast. But to start out with, I would love for you to share with the audience a little bit about your medical, history, your background, your journey, and your personal story.
Well, the Cliff Note version is very simple. I was born with cerebral palsy, hemiplegia cerebral palsy, meaning it affects the left side of my body. I use a wheelchair. I have used a wheelchair since the time I was 4, and so now my entire adult life. I was born a micropreemie, meaning very small, 1 pound, 6 ounces, and then after my first surgery, it was 1 pound, 9 ounces. I died 3 times. They brought me back 3 times. I'm in the medical books, so to speak, because I was the first preemie to ever have all these issues that they had no idea what was going on with me. It was back in the early 80s, so this was all brand new.
Right.
And, they were trying to figure it out as they were going. So I was basically the unbeknownst to me, the guinea pig to try and figure out what all this was, what was happening, and then all of a sudden labeling everything and saying, oh, by the way, your kid has CP. My parents were like, oh, okay, great. And of course,
there wasn't as much, obviously, research, all the information we have online now. There wasn't any of those things.
Absolutely not. There was no social media presence. There was just, we're going to try this and we're going to do this. And if this works, then maybe she'll have a shot. We don't know. So, I spent the first 3 months of my life in intensive care. And that was, going back and forth to the hospital. My parents always did that. And I got baptized in the hospital. It was pretty much 24/7.
Right. And then as you age into your elementary, school years and grade school and all that, did your health kind of level out a little bit? Did things kind of get more even filter? Because obviously with being a preemie, you probably had some other health complications.
Well, the only big health issue I had at the time was seizures, and my mom caught that. She noticed that I started having little episodes around the age of 2. So they put me on Tegretol, and I was on that for about 2 to 18, and then they started slowly weaning me off, and I haven't been on that since. But other than that, I haven't had any serious issues related to my CP. Surgeries, of course, over the years, hips and hernia and heart, things like that. But that's typical considering,
Right.
But for today, it's typical. Back then, it wasn't because, they were just flying by the seat of their pants trying to figure out everything and what would work and what wouldn't work and how are we going to do this and so.
And at what age do you feel that you started to really embrace your different abilities, your mobility issues, like really started to embrace it full circle, educate yourself on it? I mean, to get to the point of writing and doing all of those things that you do, that's a lot of self-awareness, I mean, to be able to do those things.
Actually, the writing came much later, and that was really linked to my sister, because when she was 14, she was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, and we almost lost her. And I've always loved writing, but I didn't take it as seriously until she was diagnosed at 14, and that's when I really focused with poetry. So, I was on the school newspaper. My high school did that for a little while, and the literary magazine. But before all this happened, there wasn't a big social online presence to share your writing or to get paid for your writing. This was back in the 90s. The biggest thing in the 90s was, AOL Instant Messenger and MySpace. And a lot of people didn't share stuff like that. So it was like, I don't know really what to do with it. And I just kind of did it as a way to self-express for myself. And it wasn't until really the Abler, because the Abler and the writing all came going
like full circle,
all at the same time. Publications started noticing, friends started recommending me, and things like that, and everything happened all at the same time. So it was just very quick and very fast.
I know that in our other conversations, we talked about, before it came to the abler, you recognizing the fact of when you have different abilities, how hard it is to find those spaces where you're going to work, where you're going to make employment, where, what I'm saying, to have a career, to do something you love.
Absolutely. And when I graduated in 2001, they were basically like saying, well, what are your strong points? And I would say, well, I'm good with the phone and typing and things like that. And they got me a job, and it was a great job. The people were great. But after 4 years, I had to leave that job because I couldn't get the transportation to go back and forth to that job because my father worked. He had a very heavy work schedule versus what he does now. It's the same thing, but he had another big title. And he couldn't, he had to switch his work schedule as much as he could, or I would have to leave his shift early because, he would get a call from a customer and say, you need to get down here. It just wasn't productive. And then they got a hold of my van at the time and said, well, we can convert it, put a lift in it. And they did a beautiful job, but it was 15 years old. So by the time they put the motor in it, the battery would go a dozen times to the point where it would stall and we were unable to drive it, and we had to sell it. So now I don't have a converted van. I don't have any van. So, I think they have the best intentions as far as these services go, but I think it's very, very narrow-minded, and I think it's very pigeonholed. Because what they don't tell you, and they're not very forthcoming with it, is once they place you in a job, they close your file, and you don't hear from them ever again.
Right.
I didn't hear from them for 4 years. I haven't heard from them since they placed me, and they gave me the person that I contacted, because they gave me a list of 4 people to contact to help find me a job. And 3 of the 4 people on that list, I couldn't contact because the information wasn't working. So, well, here's this one. What choice do I have? Right. I picked that one. They gave me set up with the job. They said, well, we'll stay with you for 2 weeks to see if there's any issues. There wasn't really any issues. So after 2 weeks, they were gone. And I said, all right. A month into the job, the hours changed. And I'm like, I stayed there for 4 years, but I couldn't do it afterwards because I said, this is a full part-time job. How do you expect people with disabilities, and they had people with disabilities there that didn't have their own transportation, to use my ride, and my ride would sit out there for hours, and you wouldn't know if they'd stay because, they're not they're not liable to stay. They can always go, unless the writer says, you can go. But at the time, that was a totally different situation.
Right.
So it was very difficult.
Right. So what, for some that don't know kind of all of the logistics of it, some viewers
Mm-hmm.
that might be tuning in, is a lot of times when you have different abilities, you work with different vocational development resources within your state or your community that help you with job coaching and finding you something, but it's kind of a joke. It really is.
Because I graduated in 2001, and it literally took me 7 years afterwards to get one counselor to stay with me for more than 1 month.
Yep.
That wasn't transferred or given the pink slip.
4 years, and a lot of times it's only part-time employment. It's not
Yeah.
to support yourself. Sometimes it's only 4 hours, 10 hours, 12
Because
hours.
that's all you can make anyway, because
Right.
You just end up breaking even anyway.
Right. And then you
They
can
don't-
lose your services to take
Exactly.
to be able to not take advantage, but be able to do the necessities for your medical care
Exactly.
that we need that way. And when we talk about the ride and the transportation portion of it, so much of the time, those vans, they can forget you. They leave you outside for 2 hours. You're not going to stand
Well,
outside.
that's why they put in the clause,
Right.
be prepared to wait for 2.5 hours or longer. And honestly, I don't feel comfortable doing that. Not now.
And for those that aren't mobile, that have more mobility issues,
Mm.
I mean, if you're sitting outside alone, would you, as a woman, sit outside? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
So, and what the thing that's scary for me is, what if the person's not verbal and
right.
something happens and they can't say anything? They
Mm-hmm.
can't call for help. They can't use a phone.
Right.
Now, these things have to be looked at now, because we're in a totally different state than we were 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that there's so many layers to this, but I think that people, unless they're actually in the trenches of it, trying to find employment, trying to find resources, trying to find funding, trying to find help, trying to find a van, trying to find transportation, I don't think that the general public has any idea of the struggle, the huge
No,
struggle and lack of for our adults that have,
no,
you know.
they really have no idea, because once all that changes, when they switch over from high school, middle school, into, okay, well, you're on your own. If you're not going to college and there's not a program ready for you, then you're good to go. They don't give you anything other than to say, contact this person, and contact them frequently, because they'll be hard to get a hold of. Well, that's not really helpful,
Mm-hmm.
because
And I always say, it's kind of a double side, not double-edged sword. I don't know my words. I'm telling you, I have a lot of sinus stuff going on. um, but when you're the person that is also advocating for yourself, a lot of times for those that have heavy intellectual disabilities, they have an advocate that is always advocating, one of their parents, a family member. But a lot of times when you have different mobility and different medical conditions that hinder that, you're your own advocate. So not only do you have to find all of it, you're trying to advocate for yourself, you're exhausted, you're trying to get there, and it just, I feel like it's a double whammy.
No, it really is. But because especially when you've graduated, all your friends are already off in school, or they've already started their own careers in a certain path, and now they're at the age, because I'm 36, they're at the age of having kids and doing their own thing, and that's fine. And I've made my peace with that. But at the same time, it's like, you shouldn't promise things in a meeting when you first meet somebody and says, if you have those goals, we'll help you reach them. And you should not let them know that once you have that position, whatever it is, we won't be available to you. That shocked me more than anything I have ever experienced in my entire life, up until that point. Because I even said to my mom, I said, "Ma, do I go back to them and start this process all over again and hope to God they find me something decent? Something where I can, try to get transportation for myself, so that Dad doesn't have to worry about it." And that was before all this other stuff was happening. And she goes, no, you'll figure it out. And eventually I did, because by the grace of God, Stephanie got diagnosed with something horrific. And I said, you know what? It's about time I say something.
Right. And so that kind of drove that passion and purpose into all of this writing and really bringing awareness in different areas. So tell me a little bit about 3 years ago, where the idea came from, how it all started, where the name The Abler came from, and what are all the layers of it?
Well, the layers are quite complex as far as social media goes. But the basic idea was because my sister was diagnosed about 9 years ago with a very serious neurological disorder called cluster headaches. And unfortunately, because it's an invisible disorder, people often think, well, there's nothing wrong with her. And because it has headache in the term of how you explain it, oh, well, you can take, a couple Motrin, you'll be just fine.
Right.
That wasn't the case. With cluster headaches, it attacks the feeling in the face. And it'll attack one side of the face, and there's cycles. So unlike a migraine where you may get a break, there are two different types of cluster sufferers. Chronic, which is all the time and no break, and episodic, which means a certain time of the month or maybe a year they'll have a reprieve and what they'll call in remission. Okay. However, my sister was diagnosed, and she was diagnosed as a chronic migraine sufferer and a chronic cluster headache sufferer. Now, she had no idea what that was. And she said to the neurologist, what is that and what can we do for it? And he explained to her, unfortunately, there isn't a lot we know about this condition yet, the medical field. And he said, we can try medication, we can try oxygen therapy, but unfortunately for my sister, she's always been prone to not having medication or pain medication or even simple antibiotics kicking in and helping her. So after about over 100 different medications and all these side effects, and nothing was working, and she was in tears, and she was getting to the point where she was trying to make these contacts to see if she could get help. And people were actually saying to her on the phone, maybe you should see a psychiatrist. Maybe it's all in your head. Maybe you're making it up for sympathy. And I know my sister. And I was like, I was fed up. So one night I was talking to my boyfriend online, and I said, I don't know what to do. He goes, what do you mean? I said, she's in her room, hysterical, crying, in pain, and there's nothing we can do. He goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know, but it has to be something big, and it has to be something public, because that's the only way people are going to pay attention. And he goes, well, why don't you start a blog? You're good at writing. Why don't you do that? I said, well, what am I going to call the blog? Help. I have issues. And he goes, no. And he's actually the one that came up with the name, The Abler. And I said, oh, that actually makes sense. So, I started writing that. And then all of a sudden I started having, I put up the Facebook group for the blog the following November. And then before I knew it, people were contacting me, asking me for interviews, contacting me saying, hey, do you have a Facebook page? And hey, are you on Twitter? So, it's really grown quite a bit and quite fast from that time on.
How often are you putting out publications, different blogs and things of that sort?
Pretty much, I try to do it every month because I have a certain schedule for everything because it's all over social media. So I have a content calendar that's color-coded. So I know what I'm putting out and when I'm putting it out. I just put up the 23rd topic on the blog. It's out now. It's on DID, formerly known as personality disorder. It's a general knowledge piece about the disorder. I I do not make claims that I am a professional of any kind. I do not have a certification of any kind. And I always put it on the blog itself. If you think you or someone you love has this condition or legal issue, whatever it is I'm covering, to please contact them, because I am not one you want to contact asking about that.
Right.
So I put that out there as well to make sure that people know I'm not liable. So please don't go self-diagnose and say, this is what I found here, so this must be true. I would make sure I put out enough information for somebody to say, okay, I want to check this out for myself a little more. Right. Before I go out and do something and do it on my own.
And I think that's such a good place to be in, because as you've learned over time and I've learned over time, some of the best knowledge that we ever get is from other people's journeys, their stories, things that have happened with them.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean it's exactly what's happening with you. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Idea, it filters, it gives you more education, which obviously as we give ourselves more knowledge, we have more power to move forward, and how someone else strategically did it. But I mean, I say that a lot on my platform too, you know, I mean, for every single person, all different things work differently.
Exactly. You know, and a lot of people dismiss personal knowledge and personal experience as knowledge in any way. And I always say, you know, just because you don't have a degree, or I don't have a doctorate, or I'm not a doctor, I don't have a certification, doesn't mean that people that experience certain things aren't knowledgeable. They're not their own professionals. They had to start somewhere. They have to start somewhere where they knew how, where this was coming from. And usually it's a crappy place to start, but who has the prettiest beginning?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, go on. I'm sorry.
It's shocking to me how people can all of a sudden say, well, you don't have a degree. I said, so?
Right. Well, I've had this for 37 years. So, I mean, really, when you think about conditions and stuff that goes on with our journeys, we definitely historically, have experienced it longer than people have jobs.
Exactly. No.
It's a lifetime.
We are our own professionals. We just don't get paid for it, and we don't get the title. But I don't care. I don't care about that. I mean, if it happens, great. But I'm not.
I mean, I think in both of our wheelhouses of people we know, we could probably cover a whole hospital of knowing all conditions.
Exactly. All backgrounds and all issues, and it's like, wow, this is quite the fun house, huh?
We know what's going on. So the Abler, you do a blog. Is there any other piece that's connected to that? So does a blog just get spread on different platforms, or do you sometimes do some podcasts? Do you do video or YouTube or any of those things for people to get content?
The blog is the main hub. However, it is grown from a Facebook group, which is online Facebook, the official Facebook group of the Abler blog, which is a public group. And it's also on Twitter. It's on Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube channel. I do YouTube channel videos, screen videos, because I don't like show my face and you never know who's watching. So, it's pretty much everywhere except for maybe 3 platforms, and that's Blog Lovin' and 2 other ones like Snapchat. I don't really use that much for professional reasons. And another platform, but it's pretty much on all major platforms, including the blog. And then, a video series. We have a video series, a monthly video series that's kind of waned since it's been debuted a year ago. But that's also run through the Facebook group, where a group member can come on and connect with me and say, hey, I would like to do a video on this topic. Do you think it would be okay? And I would either give them yes or go from this angle and see if it works. And then they would send me the video and I would post it. And, give everybody the general knowledge of the video and where they can connect with the person if they like to. It's all pretty much whatever anybody feels comfortable sharing, want to connect with me or connect with our public audience in some way. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on About Me. Up.me, that new profile platform.
Mhm.
I'm pretty much anywhere you can think of. So where you can't find the Abler, you can find me. So.
Covered. And now, what I love about this too is that, you've, as you kind of reflected on how hard different job experiences were and that there just isn't a plethora of those things out there and those resources, you've kind of, you know what I'm saying, developed your own job that fits your personal profile, the things that you need. So do you offer, because I know that you put on here like social media manager, administrator, whatnot. Do you also provide other services for others? Like if somebody wanted you to write a blog for them or to help them, do you do some of those freelance things?
Actually, I do. I work with another platform called the Chronic Illness Network Bloggers, and they connect you with brands. So I do reviews for certain brands, and they can. What happens is they send out a mass email of a product, and they say, we're looking for so many bloggers in the United States or Canada. This is the product. If you would like to connect with the person, this is their information. You don't have to tell it it's from this platform, but it would be appreciated. And I have done a couple of reviews through that platform, and they've been very successful. I do offer paid services within the blog itself. I do offer social media packages and written interview packages, all within reason. So it's not astronomical prices. The biggest package costs $100, and payment goes directly through PayPal to me. That might change. I might add Zelly in the future, but I do have an updated package on that's up on the group. Inside the group's pin post at the very top, all that information is there. But that was just launched in January of 2019 because I said to Mom, I said, I love what I do, but I need a little push. And everybody else seems to be pushing, and they seem to be pushing, So what happens if I push a little bit? you know? So, it doesn't hurt. And I did get my first paid client in April.
Nice.
So that was very good.
You might have a second paid one right here.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You are awesome. You blow me away. You blow me away. Just like some of these, there is such a community that I've met through this of, over 21, you've left school,
Oh yeah, I'm over 21. It's been fun.
I know. You're in the 30s now, so you've taken the next bracket.
Yeah. I'm getting up there. I can't wait till I'm 40. That's going to kill me, but
it's going to be a good party, though. You're going to have a good blog to write about that.
Yeah, my dad's already said, oh, you know what? We can plan, a new Kids on the Block party, like when you were 9. I'm like, what? Yeah, you can find all this stuff on eBay. I'm like, okay. I'm up for it. I mean, I still listen to them. What do I care?
Right. A party is a party, right?
Yeah.
But I love how you have taken your own, personal journey, story, conditions, all of that, and really morphed it into something so positive. Because sometimes when we get into the space where we know on a daily basis we're fighting all these services and we're fighting to advocate and we're, fighting for laws to change. For a lot of us, that can bring on a pretty daunting,
No, I was there. I was there in the very beginning. I got into this place where I was like, Ma, what do I do? I don't know what to do. Do I go back to them and start all over and hope to God they take me? Because I'd probably age out of the system by now. Right. So, what do I do? She's like, don't worry about it. You'll figure it out. And lo and behold, because my sister got sick, it was like, oh, okay.
They always say that if you travel a journey with no obstacles, it probably doesn't lead anywhere. So,
oh my God, that show, American Ninja? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've been a pro of that show for longer than it's been on the air because the obstacles have been like boom, 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 back and forth.
Right.
You
But
know, so
it's that we have to just reach and keep on climbing over them, and you certainly have done that. So your last blog, because I know that this is Mental Health Awareness Month, so have
mhm,
a lot of some of the content on there. Maybe we could throw one or two of those blogs underneath this live that
absolutely,
that pertain to that, because we are covering that for this second half of the whole month as well. So to give some people some,
absolutely. No,
education
that sounds perfect.
and
Um,
information, and then all of the other links that we can find you at, we're gonna drop
okay.
share.
Would you like them now? Because I can pull them up
We'll
now.
do that. We'll do that when we wrap up, and we can drop it in the comments, and I can drop it in some of the commentary. But just so the folks aren't at home, like,
All
trying
right, no, that's fine.
to write
That's
down
fine.
all the information. With that, is there anything for your 3-year coming up, or anything that we should be on the lookout for?
Well, for the 3-year, I'm working on a newsletter, a monthly newsletter that I'm hoping to have out before the 3-year anniversary, but it might come out afterwards. Either way, that'll be coming. That's the new thing for the blog in general. And then, um, as far as my work goes with the Abler, it's pretty much the same, unless somebody comes to me and say, hey, can I do an interview? Or, hey, what about this topic? Or, hey, I basically go off a list that was given to me when I asked in general, hey guys, this is my idea. What do you think? What do you want me to cover? And they came back with not just topics, but discussion topics and things like mental health and drug addiction and all these things and like things I never even heard of at some point. I'm like, oh, okay, well, wait a minute, hold on, because it was over 100 things on that list, and I'm still trying to break down and get through because I found that it's very daunting when you have a list in front of you, and it's like, oh, where do I start?
And Jessica, I am certain, just because you are just such a kind soul and spirit, that if there is somebody listening to it, it's like, gosh, I love writing. How do you even learn how to do, be a blogger? Where do you submit something? If somebody reached out to you via email, would you be happy to?
Absolutely. You can contact me wherever you like. I'm on LinkedIn. If you don't want to contact me, through any social media, I'm very active on LinkedIn too. I
Okay.
can always give you my email address. Just connect with me. Send Tammy a message and let me know. I'm
Wonderful.
open to anything, so
That's
just don't be crazy, because otherwise I'll have to block you. Make that list a little longer. But otherwise, we're good.
All right, Jessica. So in wrapping up tonight, because I know it's dinner time by you. You're a little bit ahead of me, I think.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
A little bit. We're
But
both
still getting
complaining
cooked.
about
So
the
I'm good.
weather. We both were said we both have sweatshirts on. So
Oh, it's freezing. I'm freezing. It's May. It's supposed to be warm. I'm so cold.
right. But in wrap up, is there anything, as people are listening and say they've had some of those frustrations and some of those feelings, along their road, that you would want to leave people with tonight, a thought that you would just like them to take away from our conversation?
I'm a big believer in God. I mean, I wouldn't be here without him. So, and I know people are very sensitive about that topic, but whatever your faith you believe in, whether you're just believing in yourself, just keep pushing, because eventually you'll get to the other side. There's always light at the other side. And even if it's for a moment, enjoy it, because you're never going to get that moment back. So just enjoy what you have and be grateful and stay humble, keep working hard, and don't listen to anybody that tells you no, because they don't know, neither do you. So they can't say that, and you can't agree because you don't know what's going to happen. So just stay positive, stay strong, and just remember, any day is a second chance, so don't waste it. That's what I would say.
Jessica, you're going to bring me to tears. And everything she just said, take that away. Thank you so much, Jessica, for being with us for the last 40 minutes plus. You are an inspiration and a joy, and you truly show what can be done when you kind of reverse that mindset, when you change it, when you're like, you go from that negative space to a positive space, looking at the things that you're strong in. And now, not only are you doing something that you love, but you're allowing, others are giving you content and information, and they're being able to share their stories and their and all of those things too.
No, it's been very rewarding, just in general, to find that, your passion and wanting to help and just everything clicking almost. It's like, okay, I get it now. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So.
What you're supposed to be doing. You are meant to do this.
Yeah, I hope so. So we'll see what happens.
So. All right. So on that note, thank you so much, Jessica, for being here. We are going to drop all those links below for you guys. So don't worry about it. It'll be easy to click through to get to them. Thank you guys for watching tonight. If you want to know any more about any of the services at the On Air Advocate, you can head on over to onairadvocate.com. Also, if you want to become part of our private group, you can head up to the top of this Facebook page, hit the blue button, and that will let you into our private group. And I am hoping by my interview tomorrow morning that some of this has left and I can clearly speak to all of you. So you guys all have a wonderful Monday evening. Thank you again, Jessica.
No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.